So I was a good citizen. I went and in my best German, I said, I've come here to register my dog. And the guy looked at me and said, welcome to Turkenfeld, Mr. Walker. And I thought, how do you know my name? Yeah. And he said, everybody knows your name. and he really meant it.
Yeah.
And everybody did know us. We were recognized. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So in a strange way, we were odd.
Yeah.
But made very welcome. Yeah. So we were able to settle quite quickly.
Yeah. Howdy und servus, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of The Pod Abroad. My name is Paulina de los Santos, and I am originally from Texas in the United States, but have been living here in Munich, Germany, the last nearly 10 years. And on this podcast, I share insights about my life as an American here in Munich, cultural differences, lived experiences, and all of that good stuff. And I also have conversations with several different immigrants based here and around Munich, where they are also able to share their own personal story and all of the little cultural quirks that come along with having lived here for so long and experiencing the German culture, all of that good stuff. So if any of this interests you, then please consider subscribing, commenting, following along, and thank you so much for being here. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, Nick Walker. He is the president of the American German Business Club based here in Munich, working here in Munich, and originally from the UK. It's the first time we have a guest from the UK. So I'm very excited about that. But Nick, could you please give yourself a brief introduction?
It's a real honor to be the first Brit on your podcast. That's great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me along. Yeah, so quick introduction. Been in Germany now for nearly 40 years. Wow. We came here for 2. Yeah. Yeah. We thought we were going back. We didn't.
It's always like that.
Yeah, it's the way it works. It's a common story.
Yeah.
We have spent some time in other places in that 40 years. We spent 4 years in California. Spent 5 years in France. A little bit of time back in the UK as well. But always the intention of coming back here. This is now our home.
I love to hear it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And how beautiful that you have this perspective from several other countries as well, and like how they operate, and you choose to come back here.
It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I want to quickly have a little rapid fire warm up with you. Mm-hmm. We have a little bit of this or that. First off would be tea or beer?
I got to say tea.
Ooh,
although
staying
I love
close
beer.
to your roots.
Although I love beer. Yeah, well, being English, I got to say tea, right?
Okay.
I felt the obligation to say tea.
I like that. Full English or a Weisswurst breakfast?
Oh, Weisswurst.
Ooh,
yeah.
That was confident.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Definitely.
Nice. Okay, British pub or Bavarian beer garden?
Bavarian beer garden.
Ooh, Germany's winning in this rapid fire.
Yeah.
Okay. What's one place in the UK everyone should visit?
I would say you gotta go to Scotland.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm just a Scotland fan.
Oh,
I guess a lot of people would say London. You gotta go to London. To me, London is not really typical of the UK. If you want to go somewhere, you want to really see some great scenery, go north or go south to Devon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'll have to put that on my list. I've never been to Scotland before.
Whoa. We need to talk about
far.
that.
Yeah, we will. It's not that far.
No.
Like by plane.
No. It's not that far.
I definitely need to have a little visit. What is one place in Bavaria that everyone should experience?
I should say a beer garden, right?
Yeah.
No, you should go down to the mountains. Oh. You should go down into the Alps.
Yeah.
It is just heaven. Yeah. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I think on the global scale, they are underrated. Like people think Switzerland or Austria, but the German Alps.
Yeah, where we live,
So nice.
when we drive down a little down the road, the Alps come into view.
Yeah.
And we've always said the day we take this for granted is the time to leave.
Ooh.
And we still do not take it for granted.
I love that.
Breathtaking.
Yeah. Even with my 10 years here, when I go like on a hike or something, I always say it never gets old.
Yeah.
Not even once.
That's right.
It never gets old.
Yeah.
That's how beautiful they are. What's a German habit that you have completely adopted?
Oh, man. A German habit that I've completely adopted. I would probably say that it is the thing with the language. I've really gotten into this difference of the way people address each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that to me is something I have adopted. And I even find it when I go back to the UK and people talk to me in an over-familiar way, I actually find myself getting offended.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
be addressed formally.
No, not really.
Okay,
but I
Mr.
hate going
Walker.
into a bank and being called Nick.
Oh, yeah. That's fair.
That's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too much.
Especially in banking,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Little
So,
formalities.
Yeah.
And then what's a British habit that you will never give up?
Yeah, these are hard questions.
Top of the mind.
Well, I every time we go back, I do really look forward to going to a British pub. I know the question you asked me earlier about British pub or beer
Yeah.
garden, but I do have a fondness for British pubs.
I love
They're
it.
they're a very different atmosphere to what goes on here,
Yeah.
and I do like going back to those. Yeah, so I guess it's got to be that.
Yeah. A good habit, a fun habit.
It's a fun habit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I should be careful. It's not a habit.
It depends. It depends who you're asking, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So I want to get into the first segment and ask you a bit about your upbringing in England and ask you what was that like? Because I've only ever been to London for a weekend and I don't really know
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, well-
what that would be like.
I mean, my first memories of the UK was we were a family of 4 kids and mum and dad. We were a very close family when we grew up. We used to do a lot of stuff together. My first memories were when we actually lived in the countryside in a farmhouse.
Wow.
And we were free to do what we like, run around a farmhouse. We moved into just the outskirts of Nottingham, really quite an industrial area. So I grew up in an industrial environment. A football pitch at the end of the road, used to go play
Yeah.
football all the time. Then get into school, go off to university at the end. I think the people in my year in the school, we were the first 4 of us, we were the first 4 to go to university. It was
Wow.
not the done thing. People did not do that where we came from. Typically you went into the industry, the local industry.
Trade skills.
So actually getting out of the school and into university, I remember that the headmaster called us in and actually said to us, this is unusual and you might have fun made of you at university. He actually asked us, are you sure you want to do this?
Wow.
Yeah, because
the
it was so
black sheep?
unusual. Yeah. And we all said, sure we do. We didn't know why.
Yeah.
We didn't know why, but it was like we were being different, I guess. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So then you go on to university, but did you ever have it in your mind that you wanted, did you ever imagine a life in Germany at that point?
this is a really great question because the answer is absolutely no. So
Not on the radar.
No, absolutely not on the radar. So much so that when I got the opportunity to come here, when I was asked to come here, I said no.
Really?
I actually said no.
And was that in the 80s?
Yeah, this was in the mid-'80s. Yeah, I was asked in 1985, 86. It was 86, yeah. If I would move to Germany. I said no. Why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
And it must have been a very imaginative company because they said to me, well, if we paid for you and your wife to go over there for a long weekend just to check it out, would you consider that? We said, well, I thought, I'm not stupid. A free holiday, you're going to pay. So we came over here and we sat in that beer garden under the sun, drinking a nice cold beer on a very sunny day. And Louise and I looked at each other and said, it's not so bad here, is it? I went back and I said, okay, we'll go, but only for 2 years.
No way.
Yeah.
So that's how it all begun.
So right back in those days, we had no thought of doing anything like this at all. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't an idea.
No.
Nothing.
Wow.
Absolutely nothing until we got here.
Wow. I often have told people that I really think the first impressions here in Munich in particular are highly dependent on weather as well.
I think it's a mixture of things. Yeah.
Like if you come for like a whole rainy weekend and you're indoors, maybe it's not the same as
maybe we wouldn't have been here.
Right? Like a sunny day,
yeah.
a nice beer garden, a crisp beer, like all of the elements kind of like aligned.
The stars lined up.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. That's incredible. So initially, then it was for 2 years for your work.
Yeah, so it wasn't a 2-year contract. It was a permanent transfer. But Louise and I decided we're going to go and we'll do this for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we brought our 1-year-old daughter over here and we settled.
Yeah.
And that was it, yeah.
Initially just a stint, So like building a whole life here.
Yeah.
What was Munich like in the 80s compared to today?
Well, we moved here. We didn't move into Munich as such. We were right outside. We were in a village. Which actually everyone told us, don't do that because you'll never meet anybody, you won't integrate.
Yeah.
We did very quickly.
Wow.
I think it helped because we brought a dog and we brought a 1-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And my wife didn't speak any German. She learned German from a dictionary. She was making up words and just translating words.
Yeah.
What was Munich like? Very different to what it is today. And very different to what it was like in the UK. Shops didn't open on a Saturday afternoon. They closed Saturday lunchtime. Out where we were, shops didn't open on a Saturday.
Wow.
They didn't even bother. One day a month, I think it was, one Saturday a month, you had Lange Samstag.
Yeah.
So the shop stayed open, I think, until 4.
It was special.
Yeah. So, but that aspect of life was very different. It was very much a cafe culture in those days.
Slowing down
I think
bit.
it probably still is, but in those days it was very much so. But it was a lot smaller than it is now. A lot less people. It's grown significantly since we've been here. But yeah, it is quite different. Yeah,
I think your unique experience of being in a village is something so beautiful about your story, because many people just directly go into the city where they're welcomed maybe in an more international environment versus like you just diving in to the German culture of a village.
We were made very, very welcome. And I think people are quite surprised by this. But I also think that if you go back 40 years in a village, everyone had lived there all their lives. There were no external people coming in. So when we moved into this village, we were unusual and we were foreigners. We were from somewhere else. So, and a little story, we brought our dog with us, and I went to the Gemeinde to register our dog on day 1 of being there, because I was told if you don't register them quickly, then you're in trouble. So I was a good citizen. I went, and in my best German, I said, I've come here to register my dog. And the guy looked at me and said, welcome to Turkenfeld, Mr. Walker. And I thought, how do you know my name? And he said, everybody knows your name. and he really meant it.
Yeah.
And everybody did know us. We were recognized. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So in a strange way, we were odd.
Yeah.
But made very welcome. Yeah. So we were able to settle quite quickly.
Yeah. What were your first impressions of Germans, like on a day-to-day?
So I'd learned German at school, so I was able at least to converse a bit. Louise couldn't speak any German, but they were very friendly. They helped us a lot. Wow. And so we found them very helpful. We kind of... a lot, the image and the reputation the Germans had at the time, they're very difficult. They don't want to know people. They don't like strangers. We found quite the opposite.
Wow.
We were embraced and taken in. It was very, very nice. I mean, as you get to know Germans, you realize that sometimes you get to know Germans, but you don't really know them because there's a barrier you've got to get through.
Yeah.
But we were able to get through that barrier by being able to, we wanted to integrate. When we came here, even though originally we didn't want to come, when we came here, we said, well, we're here, so let's get on with it. And we didn't want to do what a lot of British people do, is just stay in a British community. We wanted to integrate. So that if you're going to experience a country, experience it within. Yeah. So I think making an effort really helped.
Absolutely.
And it broke down that barrier very quickly. We've made some great friends here. Yeah, and I think if we add them up, we've got more German friends than we have non-German friends.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really beautiful.
yeah,
And that's the power of course, living
yeah,
outside of the city as well.
yeah. It is. Yeah, I think in the city it's more difficult
Yeah.
to meet people. You don't have that community that where they look at you as if you're odd and then
Yeah.
you become a spectacle. So I think it. Yeah, I think we were very lucky about where we came to and where we first landed, and the people we got to know at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think there's also an element of British charm. I think British people
I
have
couldn't possibly comment.
I think a lot of Brits have like a way with words that maybe Germans appreciate. I have one British friend. He now lives in Nuremberg, but lived in Munich for a while. And he's from Sheffield. And he, like, I always say, like, man, like, Dale, you always meet the kindest people. And I think it's your energy. That if you put good energy out there, like, he's always kind of pushing his limits, asking for little things or whatever that I could never ask for.
Yeah.
And somehow, like, everyone that he meets or interacts with, like, is so kind. And I'm like, oh, there's got to be something to British charm.
Maybe there is. I don't know.
Yeah. I've noticed that in general, I have not personally met like so many British people in Munich. And I was wondering, like, why is that? Like, is it the same for yourself, like in all of your years living here, or?
No, we do know a British community. It's I think probably out where we live around Starnberg and Westling. There's more British people than there are maybe in Munich, and that's an assumption because of the international school being out
Yes.
there. That's just outside of Starnberg,
The
so I think a lot
MIS.
of families settle there because of the schooling. So I think you'll find more English people around there, although we do know English people in Munich too. But yeah, I mean, it's not so many, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to now go into the second segment of you leaving Germany and then eventually coming back, like you said. So your career took you to Canada as well.
No, not Canada, California.
So California,
Yeah.
France, like you
France,
said.
yeah. Yep.
Were you ever back in the UK?
Went back to the UK for a couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
back,
For
so
a couple of years.
you were in
2015. We were back
California in
in
the
the UK.
US, France, yeah, a little bit back at home in the UK. Was returning to Germany ever part of the plan?
Oh, it was always the plan. We would, once we'd got through 2 years and we'd basically said, well, I don't even remember ever really making that decision.
Yeah.
It just happened.
Wow.
And,
Like naturally.
yeah, and you know, we came over here with a 1-year-old child. We thought 2 years she'll be preschool. We go back, life will be okay. Then a second child came along. We were getting more and more integrated, and it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
We just stayed. So when we went over to California, I mean, there was no chance we were not coming back. We kept our house here, everything. We settled. After the 2-year point, we must have made a decision at some point because we decided we would sell up in the UK and just really cut from the UK in that sense. And that's when we ended up buying a house in Germany, which I guess is the sign that you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that must have been a decision point, even though it was maybe a subconscious one. But no, wherever we ended up, we were always coming back. I mean, the jaunt into California was meant to be a year.
Yeah.
It turned into 2 years. Then my family, rather than just doing visits, they moved out. We spent another 2 years, all of us there, but we couldn't wait to get back.
Wow.
I mean, really, we couldn't wait to get back. We loved it there, don't get me wrong. It's a great place to live. But to us, it wasn't home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this had become home. Yeah.
At what point did Munich or near Starnberg feel like home to you all?
I think it was quite quick, you know. I think it was quite soon. Maybe it took a little longer than the first 2 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. when it really started to feel like this is where we are, this is where we belong. We never really, you always have this conversation, would you ever go back? Would you ever?
Yeah.
I think very soon after we'd got our house here and we were settled, we were answering that question with no. Why would we? Life's good here.
Wow.
It is good here. The people are nice. The place is nice. It's clean. It's safe. It's all the things that people talk about. The healthcare is good. I mean,
yeah.
Why would you not want to be here?
Wow.
Yeah.
So even after having gone to the US and back home in the UK, France, like ultimately it was Germany that kind of checked all those boxes for you all.
It did. Yeah, and it has. I mean, France. We went to France for a few years. France to us is a place to go on vacation. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Paris is such a wonderful city to go as a tourist. To live in Paris is not my idea of fun. And as much as I enjoyed getting to know the city, knowing it wasn't forever was fine.
Yeah.
But this is where we wanted to come back to. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I find it so cool that you guys chose, even with children and an established home here in Munich, to kind of have those stints and really kind of get the most out of out of life and one's career. Yeah. 'Cause I know it's not easy, right? Packing up and kind of moving family.
It's not. No.
Yeah.
No, it's a real pain. But, you go through it. And we were fortunate enough to always keep the house.
Yeah.
So we never moved. So we just kept it. So most of our stuff stayed here and we didn't take it with us. So packing up was just stuff we needed to get to wherever we were going and then live our lives there, but always having our home here. Yeah.
How do you think living abroad shaped you as a person that you are today?
I think it's made us both much more tolerant.
Yep.
I think it's also made us much more aware in terms of differences of cultures and differences in people, which kind of leads to tolerance. I think it's also made us a bit more curious than, you like to ask questions, or we find we like to ask questions about what other cultures are like and what other people are like. So, I'd say that's what it's done to us. It certainly changed us. It certainly shaped us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I have only ever, other than the US, I've only ever lived here in Germany the last nearly 10 years. Every now and then, Tim and I always play around with the idea of maybe going somewhere, but also with the intention of always returning. Yeah. Like, here is home, like home base. Like,
I can recommend it.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to do.
It was worth it in the end for you.
Yeah. It's it was work that took me to the various places I've been.
Yeah.
And they were never planned. They just happened.
Yeah.
They did. My career has been a series of accidents.
Yeah.
And coincidences. And it's why I love being part of the American German Business Club, because it's all about people. It's all about network.
Absolutely.
And crazy thing I could tell you is I never applied for a job except for my first job ever.
Really?
I've never applied for a job. No, they've just happened.
Wow.
They've just happened. You meet people, or people in your network say, hey, do you fancy coming and taking a look at this? And it's always been, even when I've quit jobs, but something's always just happened and come up. So, and to me, that's the power of a network.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in a good network. But yeah.
That's exactly why I joined AGBC, the American German Business Club, this year. Because I am in between jobs.
Welcome to the club.
Yes, thank you. Because I am currently looking for a job in marketing and communications. And I think my generation right now, like being so digital first and on LinkedIn, it's a bit to our downfall as well. Yeah. When it's only like when we're thinking one or the other. Yep. Yes, I know it should be both, but the foundation of meeting people face to face is so necessary. I've learned this year, and can open up so many doors.
It really is. And I'm always surprised when you meet, especially younger people who have grown up in this digital age, and you say to them, what kind of a network do you have? And they say, I know
There's
hundreds
many
of people.
connections.
Because I've got all these connections on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. They didn't meet these people.
Nope.
They don't even
it's
know
not
who
the
they
same.
are. It's a digital relationship and probably even just one shot. Oh, friend or like or connect or whatever. But they never talk to them.
Yeah.
And you get to our monthly meetings and you end up in conversations that you never imagined you were going to have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you start getting curious about other people's backgrounds and whatever. And you always learn something. You always come out of it a better person
Absolutely.
with more and more connections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's like never enough, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love the kind of mindset of truly being open, to meeting people at any point in one's life.
Yeah.
Not coming to a certain standstill where like, oh, I've met enough people, like I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, definitely not having that mentality, I think.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I can't imagine that happening.
Yeah.
I guess it's like, my view of the Alps when I get and that doesn't take me anymore, then it's time to move on. I feel the same about people.
Yeah.
You always want to be with people. Yeah.
I want to now speak about the act of you building your life in Germany and kind of get into a more real part and ask you what has been the hardest part about building a life here long term.
So the hardest part, I think there's a couple of things. If you want to be here long term, you've got to speak the language well. You really need to know how things work.
Yep.
Just things like getting through doctor's appointments, buying a house, renting an apartment, all of these things.
Yep.
You need language. And so that is one thing I would say. The other thing is get an appreciation for the differences between Germans and whatever you are. So in our case, Brits.
Yeah.
There is a difference. You just have to live with it. You have to get used to it and you have to live with it. But coming to terms with that is very, very important. Very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I just an example on that last point. I mean, when you talk with Germans, they don't hold back.
Yeah.
They don't hold back.
They're unapologetic.
They ask you questions that you would think, oh my God, I really wish you hadn't asked that question because I'm feeling an obligation to answer and I don't want to. Yeah. And
I've been there.
Yeah. The great reserve of most other cultures doesn't apply here. It doesn't apply here. And if you want to be here long term, get used to that. Yep. Don't get offended by it. It is the way it is. It happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like what you say, basically meaning that it's not like you're right and they're wrong either, or vice versa.
No.
That they're right and you're wrong.
Sometimes you think that.
Yeah, I know. It can be a slippery slope, right? There's like a fuzzy gray line.
There is.
Between some interactions.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like in the grand scheme of things, I think two people can be right in their own ways. And like you said, you're going to have to get used to it. It is different. People act differently than where we come from.
Yep.
And that's just, part of being an immigrant is also truly trying to understand it. Make a little sense of it.
Yeah.
And like get along.
Just get along with it.
Right?
Get
along with it.
I mean, when you move to somebody else's country, it's up to you to adapt, not to the country to adapt to you.
Absolutely.
So you need to find these things out and deal with them. And if you can't deal with them, don't stay.
Yeah.
If it's bothering you all the time, it's not the right place for you.
Ooh, I like that line.
Yeah.
Because it isn't for everyone here. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
That if someone does want to leave because they just didn't find that they're compatible with the culture here, then that's fair as well. Yeah,
we know a lot of people also from England that haven't stayed. They've been here.
Yeah.
They've spent a few years here, but we're happy to go back to the UK, and they've settled back in the UK, and they are totally happy.
Yeah.
They were grateful for the experience, but they couldn't see it through.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's not. It's not a fault. It's just the way it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even some days after my 10 years here, I have some hard days with some interactions, and I'm like.
Yeah, well, that's okay. In your
years.
own home, in your own life, you can go back and say, Do you know what happened to me today?
Yeah.
You know what someone said to me? But, in the moment,
Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially in the grand scheme of of things, it's not happening day to day.
No.
Yeah. There
No.
are just some kind of isolated events sometimes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I can just brush it off.
Yeah.
And appreciate all of the positives more so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because every country, I mean, wherever one were to move to, you're going to have things that you appreciate and that you don't like as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Looking back in the last 4 decades that you've been here, how has Germany changed you the most?
4 decades. Wow. When you say it like that, that sounds longer than 40 years. Looking back, it doesn't seem like 40 years.
Yeah.
But I guess that's time, doesn't it? It just seems to go so fast. How has it changed us? So when we go back to the UK, what I find is, first and foremost, I don't understand the sense of humor anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, reverse culture shock.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And that doesn't mean that there's no sense of humor here, because that is a really false thing that people think about Germans. Germans do have a sense of humor. It's just different to certainly to the British sense of humor. But people there talk about stuff that I don't understand anymore, because I'm just
you just
out
don't
of that.
relate to either.
No, I can't relate to it. I think, okay, you're all laughing at something, but I don't know why that's funny. Yeah. So I guess I don't know. I guess we've just grown apart a little bit in a funny way, and we've grown the German way, and it's gradual. Honestly, I can't put my finger on anything to answer that question by.
Yeah.
But I know it has. I know we've changed.
Of course.
I know we have.
Yeah.
And I like to think for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think whether or not, of course, someone changes countries, they evolve and with new information, new experiences.
Yeah, you must. I mean, when I think about the first job I had when I got here, walking into the office and finding a beer machine was the strangest thing ever. In those days, I don't think it's still the case now, but the company that I was with was in the semiconductor industry, and it was such a size in terms of number of employees, they were obliged to have a beer machine.
Wow,
and it was subsidized.
I love it.
We would go down after work and just get a very cheap bottle of beer from the machine and sit at our desks drinking it.
Yeah. You took part in German culture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's intrinsic. It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't escape it. It's food, right?
Yeah. That's what they say here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's 5 p.m.
I think that's an excuse rather than anything else. But I like it.
Yeah. On the contrary, is there anything about where you grew up or the UK in general that you maybe realized that you didn't fully appreciate until leaving?
Yeah. But I think it's something that's happened to us over time. I mean, when we do go back to the UK and we go out of where we were living, the countryside is lovely. I never appreciated it. I just didn't.
Yeah.
And I think being here with such wonderful countryside, you start to appreciate it more. So you look for it where else you go. I don't think I ever looked for it when I lived in the UK.
Yeah.
In the UK, some of the towns are not that great. And I certainly wouldn't want to live in them, but the countryside is fabulous. And I think that is something that I've grown an appreciation for because of being here. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you know the British show Sex Education?
The what, sorry?
The British show. It's a TV show called Sex Education.
I do not know that, no.
It's a fantastic show, actually. It's like a TV series on Netflix.
Okay.
And that is my one connection to knowing the British countryside, because
Really?
these two best friends are cycling to school, going through the rolling hills,
Oh, yeah.
on the countryside, and they do these incredible drone shots where they just like show these like sprawling like
Yeah.
lands, and it looks so beautiful and
It,
just like
it
very
is.
peaceful.
It really is. But you've got to go out of the towns to get there. I mean, that's an obvious thing to say, I guess.
Yeah.
But we never did.
Yeah.
You know, the last place we lived actually in the UK was not in around Nottingham. We moved down towards Gloucester, towards the Welsh border, and we had a house in the middle. In fact, it was a village where there were 4 houses, and 2 of them were holiday homes. Yeah, so we
Wow.
were in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
and I think even then we didn't appreciate where we were and what was around us. And we've been back since and looked around, and yeah, we appreciate it much more now.
Yeah. Sometimes, right? It takes leaving
You've got to leave
to like
to
really
appreciate what you
see.
had. Yeah,
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 it's like that, right? I want to move into a segment now all around community, AGBC in general, and kind of a little bit of reflection. And you are now the president of the American German Business Club.
Yep.
What made you take on that role?
So, I guess going back to it, why did I join the club in the first place?
Yeah.
I joined the club in the first place because of network. It was a logical step. I got introduced to it through a good friend of mine, who actually is no longer a member. He's since left the club, but he introduced me to the club. I went along to a first meeting, and I thought, this is great. I've never been to something where I've got the opportunity to meet so many new people in one place
Yeah.
and have great conversation, whatever. And I joined straight away. So I was a guest at a meeting, then I joined straight away. And then I went to the annual general meeting where the board is voted. And they'd got a full slate for the board except one role. It was the VP of membership. And they said, we don't have a candidate for this. So I just raised my arm and I said, well,
I love it.
I'll do that, because I'm the kind of person that if I do something, I like to do it properly. I want to be involved.
Yeah.
I don't like sitting on the edge of things. So I raised my arm and I became a board member. And then I was a board member for a few years, and the role of president came up. The previous president was stepping down. That was Constanza. She was stepping down, and I said, "Well, okay, I'll put myself forward." And I was voted in. I'm now in my 3rd year of doing this.
Wow.
Yeah, and like I say, I'm the kind of person that if I do something, I really want to be.
Your name is on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. My name's on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoy it. And it is weird. You know, I'm a Brit. I'm the president of the American German Business Club, but I am German. I got a German passport.
Yes.
So I've got half of it.
But I think that's a good point as well. If we want to plug AGBC right now, in saying that you do not need to be American or German to be part of the club.
We have so many different nationalities, and
Yeah.
they all come for the same reason. And everybody asks that question, well, can I become a member if I'm not American or German? Of course
Yes,
you
you
can.
can.
Yes, you can.
Absolutely.
Come along. Yeah.
What role do you think AGBC could play in someone's life who is new to Munich in Germany?
Oh, they will meet people in an instant.
Yeah.
I'd like to think the club is a very welcoming place.
Yeah. I found it to be.
Yeah. At our meetings, when we get into the networking session, if anyone's standing on their own, people walk up to them and they pull them in. You know, if somebody's a little bit shy and they don't want to go up to new people will go talk to them.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to meet people quickly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then you get connected to their networks, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And regarding kind of your work experience over the years, what has been kind of the red thread or bottom line that you've learned from working across British, German, American, and French cultures?
Adapt. It comes down to that. And I find that in every business situation, whatever. I was taught something very early on in life, and I moved from technology into business quite early on. And I was taught that you always lead your life with 2 ears and 1 mouth. and you use them in that order and in that priority.
Ooh,
You
I like
listen
that.
more than you speak.
Yeah.
I'm probably not doing this on this podcast because you're getting me to speak.
But that's my job right now.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
job is to be all ears.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, and that's what you have to do. You listen. You're
Absolutely.
aware of what's going on, and you respect it.
Yeah.
So you fit in.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've learned. Everywhere, we touched on this before, but everywhere is different. But
Absolutely.
it's up to you to fit in, and that has helped me a great deal in my business career. Yeah,
That's a wonderful reminder. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
I want to transition into a more fun topic, saying that you also run a whiskey blog
Oh, yes, I
and
do.
have hosted whiskey tastings as well.
I do a lot of them. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did that passion first begin? Can you speak a little bit on that?
I can, and I've got to blame my wife.
Ooh.
And that doesn't mean she drove me to drink. What it means is that at a round birthday, she didn't know what to buy me, and she bought me a cask of whiskey at a distillery in Scotland. And I was very surprised. I'd never heard of the distillery. I went to see it with a friend of mine a year later, and we obviously had to sample some whiskey, and we got terribly drunk. We went back to our hotel rooms. We woke up the next morning, and I found a piece of paper at the side of my bed, and I'd bought a second cask.
Ooh. You were hooked.
Yeah, and I saw my friend at breakfast, and I said, I bought a cask. And he said, so did I. So
it didn't completely like scar you, the experience.
Not at all. Not at all. And
It captivated you.
It went on from that. And now I've got a collection of over 500 different whiskies at home.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And are they all stored underground or?
I can't tell you where they are. They are stored in my cellar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. And it's just become a hobby of mine.
Yeah.
You got into this and started to learn about it, how it's made. There's so many stories and myths and legends about whiskey, about the distilleries, how they came to be. It's great storytelling.
Absolutely.
And when I do talks and tastings, I spend most of my time talking about those stories and letting people sample the whiskies that I've got. And we do sometimes 5, sometimes 6 different whiskies and compare them. I do something with another member of the American German Business Club. That's Higgins, the guys who make craft beer. We do pairings. We do beer and whiskey pairings. Is it by Circus Krone? Yeah, it's just around the corner from Circus Krone.
Oh my gosh, I just went there for the first time 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Are they American?
They are American, yeah.
I thought I heard it.
Yeah, they are Americans.
I just went there for the first
Jen and
time.
Paul. It's a great place, a great bar. If you're new to Munich, that's the place to go because you always find friends there. You'll go in knowing nobody and you'll come out knowing everybody.
Yeah.
It's a fun place. But we get together and they take some of their beers and then we sit and sample them and then I find some whiskies to pair them with and we do a whiskey and beer craft beer pairing.
Very cool. Where can people find information about this?
Normally at Higgins.
Cool.
They run them. We do them at their place on the Higgins website. You'll see those. Yeah.
I'll link it in the description.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
After having such a long and developed international career in tech and business, what does writing about whiskey and having these tastings give you that your professional career could never?
There's a little bit, I think, when you're in business, everything's very factual. It's, there's rules around it. There's stuff you do that, there's guardrails. When I do my whiskey stuff, there's no guardrails. There's a lot of fantasy involved because you're giving descriptions of things. You're telling a story.
Yeah.
Not that I'm making the stories up, but I do a lot of research into it. And you find things out that you just can't believe.
Yeah,
that's how that happened, and so I think it's that. I think it's the freedom and the ability, or the opportunity to use my fantasy a little bit more, my use my mind, my imagination a little bit more, and I find that it's one of these things. I don't know, but it gives me a lot of confidence to be able to stand up and talk about it, because I've now been doing this for a number of years. I've learned so much about it. I go to Scotland quite a lot. Louise and I went there for a month last year and did a tour. She was very tolerant. She let me go to a few distilleries. I didn't do it every day, but I do a couple of trips probably every year, and I've made a lot of friends over there. People who run distilleries and stuff, and it's another community for me. Yeah.
What would you say is a good starter whiskey for someone here in Munich, such as myself?
Starter whiskey, I would say I'd recommend you start with something relatively smooth, but I wouldn't point you towards one of the brands that everybody knows, like a Glenlivet or a Glenfiddich or something. I'd point you towards, it is one of my favorite distilleries, a Glenallachie. Yeah. It's a Speyside distillery, and it's absolutely fabulous. So I'd point you to that. If you got yourself a bottle of Glenallachie 12-year-old or Glenallachie 15-year-old, I'll write this down for you afterwards. Yeah. That is a great starter whiskey.
Yeah. I'll save those notes.
Yeah.
Very cool. Going into a little bit of reflection now, I wanted to ask you if you could sit down with the version of yourself arriving in Munich in 1982, was it?
86, I think.
86? We'll just say in the 80s.
In the 80s, yeah.
What would you tell him?
Oh, keep an open mind. Just keep an open mind. Drink it in. Just absorb everything that's around you. Don't hold back. Don't put up walls or barriers. Just dive right in there.
Absolutely.
Get involved. Go meet people. Talk to people. Even if and integrate as fast as you can. Learn the language. Be able to at least speak a bit of the language, and don't be frightened. I mean, this is one thing that Brits. They're frightened of languages typically, and they won't open their mouths and speak a language unless they feel they're going to be perfect in it. I don't believe even Germans are perfect in German because it's a very complex language. So just go for it. I don't hold back. That's the advice I'd give.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful reminder for myself as well.
Sometimes
I'm very critical, like with my language skills of the sort, but it's good to let one's walls down and you'll never improve unless you're just making mistakes and learning along the way, right?
Get on with it, yeah. Oh, and of course, the other piece of advice would be join the AGBC.
Oh, yeah, of course. We're definitely going to link AGBC's website down below.
Thank you.
But Nick, thank you so much for being on the Pod Abroad. I have learned so much about you and your story today. And I think it's, just so special that after all of these years, you and your wife make a conscious choice of remaining here in Germany.
Yeah.
And for good reasons.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed the talk.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
If you guys have made it to the end of this episode, thank you so much for listening in. Feel free to leave a comment below, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Ciao. The Pod Abroad's video, audio, and music is produced and edited by Tim Teherne. Make sure to give us a follow and leave a comment if you like this episode.